Hi everyone, welcome to our December episode of 2024. We are super excited to have you joining us. We are doing a video episode, so those of you who normally only listen to us, there is a video version out there now. So
bonus.
Yeah, so check that out. But we are really excited for today's guest. Today we have Pamela Holt. She is the executive producer and Holt of the show Me, Myself, and the World.
She's the executive producer and host as well.
What did I say?
You said Pamela Holt was the Holt of the show.
That's awesome. Yes.
Which she is. She
is
holds
the Holt.
Everything together.
Yes, she does. So she executive produces, she holds, and she hosts.
That's right.
Her show, Me, Myself, and the World, which is streaming on Amazon Prime, Go Traveler, Tubi, and more. So we are really excited not only to have this interview with her, but to hear about her stories, and hope that you will be inspired for your own adventures, especially in the world of solo travel. We're going to dive into that. So Pamela, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So fun.
Thank you for welcoming me to your home here in Waco, Texas.
Yes, we're filming in our home.
Absolutely.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're thrilled. So, Me, Myself, and the World is so aptly titled because it is a focus on solo travel and an emphasis on the art of solo travel.
Yeah.
So tell us what got you into doing a show about solo travel.
Yeah. Okay. So as you mentioned, the tagline for my show is the art of solo travel. And it's because I started solo traveling when I was 19 years old. I moved to Japan and I would solo travel around while I was working there. And I really got the travel bug when I was probably 13 years old. Actually, I remember the moment. We were in Japan and I was turning 14. I was at a very famous restaurant in Hong Kong. We had just come from Japan. I was in Hong Kong at, now I misplaced the name in my head. I'll think of it. And they had the best French onion soup ever. Ooh. I don't know why I'm in Hong Kong having French onion soup.
Did it have the bread on top with the cheese?
When in
Yes.
Rome.
Oh, yeah.
When in Rome, right. And I'm 13, so, you know. And everyone's saying happy birthday. And I looked down and I had this new Seiko watch. I'd saved up all summer for it. And I'd bought it in Hong Kong. And here I was wearing this fancy Seiko watch with the Roman numerals. And this whole restaurant was singing happy birthday to me. And I was in hog heaven, and I just really got the travel bug at that moment. And like I said, by age 19, I was solo traveling by myself, much to my father's chagrin. And
imagine.
This is before cell phones, this is before the internet, and you're just winging it.
Now, when you were doing that, does Japan, because we haven't been there yet, we're going to talk a little bit more about Japan later, but were there trains? How did you get around? Were you doing a lot of flying, trains? What were you doing?
So I was living in Tokyo. I live 6 stops off the Ikebukuro line, which everyone that has been in Japan, they picture the map and they know where everything is by the train lines.
Okay.
And I would switch homes. I was directing a children's musical, actually, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Yeah, it was really fun. I was directing it for these kids, and they were learning English at the same time, and with a theater background, it was perfect. Yeah,
because you are a performer and entertainer and singer and
I am. Yes, I started my career as an actor and singer, which I still do occasionally, but travel has really taken over my life.
We'll have to test that at some point.
Oh boy. Okay, we'll sing a little duet.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and so it took me a long time to really wake up in terms of marrying the passion. So I come from performing theater, film, and television. I came from producing several short films, sold 2 short films, one at Sundance, one at the Cannes Short Corner.
That's awesome.
And I was actually on my Golden Jubilee trip. It was for my 50th birthday. I went to 7 countries over 7.5 weeks. And it was on that trip that I realized, wait a minute, I was a travel host for Florence Henderson. I had this experience making and telling stories and as a filmmaker, and I had been to 92 countries at that point. Why aren't I marrying my passions and putting it all together and creating a show? So it was that eureka moment.
Man.
Yes, and I created Me, Myself, and the World, The Art of Solo Travel.
It's so
cool.
fun. Now, in that process, I feel like you have sort of redefined how people might normally think about solo travel when they're like, what the first thing that comes to mind when you say solo travel. I feel like you have kind of given us a different way to think about it. So
Yeah.
how would you do that?
You know, I got married just 2 years ago. So thank you. And for years I got that sad look of, oh, you're a solo traveler,
What's
i.e.
wrong
you're
with
alone.
her?
Exactly.
Poor thing.
Everywhere, on airplanes, at airports, with my friends back in Los Angeles, everywhere I went, it was like, oh, she can't find anybody. She's alone. And I hated the word alone because I'm secretly watching these couples who are feeling bad for me. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I'm the lucky one.
Yeah.
Like, you two are going to bed at 10 p.m. I'll be at the clubs and the museums all day long and creating all these adventures. I don't have to ask permission. I don't have to get an invitation. I can just go.
Yeah.
And I think what really came to me, in particular this last year, is I've redefined solo travel. And SOLO stands really for seeking out life's opportunities. And that's what I've been doing all these years. And that's what inspired other women and men to look at my journey and my path and say, well, how is Pamela doing it? I want to do that. And I think also by redefining solo travel to seeking out life's opportunities, we're not talking about single travel. We're talking about solo travel. That's for married couples. That's for people who are in relationships, people who are not in relationships. It's about discovering the world on their own terms and not thinking of it in terms of alone, not alone, single, married, taken, whatever, however you want to define a partnership.
Yeah.
And it just opens up solo travel to everybody.
Yes. That's awesome. I love the redefinition. What's really cool to me also is that you took who you are and what existed. Like, it wasn't, I'm going to create something I think the market will really go for. and I'm going to fit that mold, you know? No, you took who you are, what you've already been doing, what your passion is, and defined it. And here it is.
Yeah. And then you're inspiring other people to do the same.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, that was the biggest byproduct. You know, throughout the years, through all my travels, I would talk to women, and I'm going to be honest, I would brush off a lot of their accolades, like, well, just get up and go do it. Like, okay, I don't need a pat on the back for solo traveling because it's so amazing. And I didn't realize what it was doing for women because I didn't live their life. I didn't, not to be mean, I wasn't strapped down by a family or kids. And not that women think they're strapped down or men think they're strapped down, but there's you have to take into account your family and
there's that consideration.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the dynamic is real.
Exactly. And I was freewheeling it all over the world.
And that was real.
Yes. And a lot of these people felt confined by the definition of family. And when I started showing them that, you know, the husband could take a solo trip to somewhere he wanted to go to and the wife didn't, or the family really wasn't an option for the family to go there. And also for the women, and also for the kids. What a lot of people don't realize is you're not necessarily going to send your kid on a solo trip, but we're talking like starting age 13, you have the Lions Club who pay for children to study abroad. Wow. They live with another family, and the deal with the Lions Club is when someone takes in a child, that child is treated exactly like any other child in the family. So if they go to Europe on a private jet, so does the kid, and that family pays for it. And I'm only mentioning that because it actually happened. There was this family I met. They did this program. One kid ended up in like sub-Saharan Africa. The other kid ended up in a castle with a very wealthy family, like vacationing in the south of France on their private jet. And the parents were like, what? Anyway, And subsequently, that family then alternate summers brought kids from around the world into their home. And so you have these kids essentially solo traveling. It's for everybody at all ages within reason. And it will change them.
Absolutely.
It's life-changing.
Well, here's the thing. I think you just hit on a key for every age pretty much, because seeking out life's opportunities never ends. I don't care if it's going 30 minutes down the street and exploring an area of your own area because you're 95 years old. And you know what I mean? It's like seeking out life's opportunities is for everyone.
Exactly. I actually met this woman. She, I think, was 97, and she was solo traveling.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, she walked around. Everybody was scared of her. This was on a cruise ship where they knew everything about the passengers that came on, the guests. And she came on, she looked like a Puritan, and I got stuck going to lunch with her one day. They're like, Pamela, she wants to meet you, can you have lunch with her? And I'm like, oh. And I go there like, okay. I literally had told the maitre d', I was like, all right, 45 minutes into this, I'm needed somewhere.
Here's my signal.
Yeah, I've got rehearsal, I've got something. I mean, I sit down, and her opening line was, so... I've traveled the world, and I've got lovers in every port. And I'm like, forget the 45 minutes, bring on the whiskey. She drank whiskey. I was so aghast. And what it turned out to be is she came from a very, very wealthy family. Her parents unfortunately died early together. And she and her sister had said, we never have to rely on a man. And they both set out to say that they were going to be spinsters their whole life.
Come on.
They were spinsters. They kept this giant mansion they had, and they would come and go, but they both traveled, and they had friends all over the world, lovers all over the world. Wow. And she dressed one way, and she was another, and she was such an inspiration. And so, awesome. Solo travel is for all ages.
I would think 100-year-old person telling me, opening the conversation like that, I would have to, I need something stronger than this water.
She was drinking a whiskey. I thought it was iced tea. So that was
That's
fun.
Great. On the stories I bet she could tell. Oh,
yes.
I love that. But because she has solo traveled her life.
Yeah.
I think that solo travel is such a great way to build your independence, learn who you are, really discover a lot about yourself. I had a niece tell me, I think last year when we went to visit, she's like, you know what? You encouraged me before I got married to go overseas. And I had really encouraged her because the family is very close-knit, don't get out much. As far as, I don't mean it that way, but like they're all very centrally located together. And they don't leave the area, right? And so I was like, before you get married, if you're not going to go live on your own, you at least need to travel on your own before you get married, because you need to, like, that was my advice to her. Maybe other people have different advice, but I just felt like if you can know who you are and bring all of who you are, and you know who that is, that's who you bring to the marriage.
Yeah, it makes it stronger.
And so, so she ended up going to Russia for a trip. And she said it was the best thing she ever did. Exactly. It made such a difference for her. It taught her things about herself. And then she was able to bring that into her relationship and add to that. And so even if you are married and whatever, like Rory and I will do trips here and there. Aww. We will do even
here
solo
and there,
trips.
Did you say?
Yeah, well, we're always married, but here and there we do trips.
That's what I meant. Here and there we do a lot of trips.
Yeah, but we'll do solo trips even.
Right.
And so like sometimes he wants to go visit his family and I got things I need to take care of, so he'll go without me. Or, there's a lot of things, or I'll do business trips that he doesn't go on.
Right.
And so we do that all the time, and I feel like we are bringing all of us into the marriage, even though we're not doing everything together. Well, we do a lot of things together, but even when we don't do everything together, we still are growing as people, learning things. We have something else to contribute. Hey, let me tell you about this. I had this experience that you haven't had, so let me share, and it just deepens connection with the people that you are around and that you do spend your daily life with.
I think the key is you have something to bring to the table.
Yeah.
You have something to share, something to bring to the table. And what you touched on earlier that's so important is when you're solo traveling, you are dependent upon yourself. You have to carry all your baggage, not physically, mentally too.
Right.
So
Right.
you are forced to hear your thoughts, especially if you're traveling in a country where you don't speak the language.
Yes.
You're so often by yourself with your thoughts. And how it really exposes yourself to yourself of what are your thought patterns? What are you spending your time thinking about? And it exposes a lot of that. And so there's so much room for growth, improvement, and more importantly, you're forced to take care of yourself. You're forced to really literally live with your decisions.
Yeah.
So if you're on your phone, not paying attention, and you forget a piece of luggage, miss your stop, it's only on you.
Yeah.
And it really can wake up a lot of people to how responsible they are for their actions, their thoughts, and their success.
Yeah, you said something that I think is so key. I'm going to interrupt you here for a
That's
minute.
all right.
That I think is so key. You talked about carrying your own baggage, both physically and emotionally. When we travel, and let's say she's a cliche, and she's a woman who carries trunks and all these bags, right?
Right.
So if I'm with her, she knows I can carry some. If she's by herself, she's going to put some of that down, and she's not going to take it anymore. Because she has to carry it all herself. For us emotionally, when we travel, it can be the same way. If we're having to carry all that baggage by ourselves, if there's someone with us, we lean on them to help us carry that baggage.
Right.
When we're solo traveling, we have to lay that baggage down, which is a really healthy thing to do. And eventually we find we can lay it down and walk away from it.
I think
Yes.
I think travel can also help you lay those things down. Because you are facing that fear. Like when you were talking, I was like, what you are saying right now is probably scaring so many people. Because I think one of the biggest barriers to people in their travel is fear. They're either fear of the unknown, but also if they're solo traveling, there's that fear of I have to live with myself, I have to look myself in the mirror, I have to listen to these thoughts.
And so something that I say, it's a motto that I live by and I talk a lot about it, is feel the fear and do it anyway. It's a book by Susan Jeffers. It's a book that really, it's a very unrelated story. It's just about a woman and her decisions as a single mom to go back to school. It's the title of the book. It's what the book stands for, is these things are scary and they're going to force you to grow.
Right.
And
then you're no longer living in fear once you face those, right?
That's
I
right.
mean, you can begin to let go of that.
And a way that solo travelers, a quick little tip, is if you haven't solo traveled, start small. If you live in Waco, Texas, maybe go to Houston, go to Galveston, drive an hour and a half, 2 hours up to Dallas, do small trips, do day trips, and be in control by a car. So if you're in Frankfurt, go to a nearby town. If you're in Paris, go over to London. Somewhere that you can really just get your feet wet.
Yep.
And if you're enjoying your stay, book a hotel and stay the night, and or stay for the weekend, and slowly expand. Then the next thing would be go to a neighboring state or a neighboring country if you're in Europe.
Yeah.
And then finally go domestically. And my recommendation is always to start with an English. If you're English speaking, go to an English speaking country first. Go to the UK. Go to Australia, Singapore. That's
Kiwis.
Iceland, New Zealand. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, New Zealand.
Go
I
somewhere
mean, they
where
all talk funny there.
But they all
We
speak
were just in
English, I mean.
Scotland, and some of the funny
Translators
accents.
needed.
We're like, yeah, we don't know how y'all understand each other, but yeah.
So, but that's a great tip for anyone who's feeling the fear. One, feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yep.
And two, start small. It's okay.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great.
Yep, in your solo travels.
Yep.
Well, you have released so far 2 seasons
Yes.
of Me, Myself, and the World. So season 1, tell us kind of what you did in season 1, what were some highlights?
Yeah.
And then after that, we'll dive into season 2.
So in season 1, I go to Bali, Indonesia, and then I move on to southern Vietnam. And in Bali, Indonesia, a lot of people don't know this. So Bali is an island in 18,000 islands that make up Indonesia. And Bali is so special. It used to be a kingdom all on its own, and you really we dive into the culture of the Balinese people, and their very calm, serene Hindu background affects all aspects of their life, from the naming of the children to all the flowers, and we really get to dive into that culture through the cooking. And that's something really unique, is when you dive into the cooking, the flavors of the culture, you also learn about the history, you learn about the people, the taste, the smells.
Food and language are so connected to culture.
So integral to experiencing.
So key.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we have a great time exploring Bali, learning, like I said, about the culture, the religion, the people, and I really try to get my feet a little dirty or a little wet and do unique, fun things while I'm there. Including staying at Bamboo Inda, which is an incredible eco lodge. When people watch it, was actually just named one of the top 4 places in the world by Time magazine just last week.
Come on.
Yeah, it is so
if you guys
incredible.
want to see what that is, watch season 1.
Yes, season 1 of Me, Myself, and the World.
Streaming now on Amazon Prime.
Yes, and Go Travel.
And Go Traveler.
Yes.
And Tubi and more.
And in season 2, I really get to the core of solo travel. I go off the beaten path, which I do throughout both seasons. And in particular, I go to northern Vietnam, Hanoi, and I have the really distinct pleasure of meeting an American veteran, and I bring her together with a Vietnam veteran, and they really share in their experience. It's hard to talk about it and not be emotional, because for me, I'm a big supporter of veterans, and this was such a cathartic moment, I think, for both of them. And in particular, we learned for the Vietnam veteran that he had been through 3 wars. And, you just assume, oh my gosh, if someone's been in 3 wars, they're a professional soldier. This guy's a teacher. He didn't want to serve
a musician.
Musician. He didn't want to serve in any of them, let alone one of them. And had to recover from that and raise a family and then become a teacher and a musician, and picked up all these unique instruments. And we get to see all of that. And one of the most moving moments was with Pat, who's the U.S. veteran. And we were actually rolling camera, and she didn't know it. And she just kind of said, oh, hey, tell me more about the show that you're shooting, when we were just sitting down having a cup of coffee. And I said, oh, well, I'll be in every episode. I interview young, old, guys, girls, all walks of life from all over the world that are solo traveling. She goes, oh, you got your old person. And I kind of look over at her, and I was like, aren't you in your 60s? And she doesn't know we're filming. She goes, yeah, I'm like 67 or something. I was like, oh, no, you don't qualify. Like, I'm looking for someone in their 80s or 90s.
Yeah.
And she wrote me several weeks later, and she's from Pennsylvania, and she said that was such a defining moment for her, that she didn't qualify for the old person. Because in Pennsylvania, she is fully signed up for senior dinners at 5:30, and
at 55 you get ARP cards.
Exactly.
What?
And she's like, oh my gosh, I do not have to subscribe to that.
No.
And I said, no, you don't. You're 67. I'm going to put you in the middle-aged category. And it really opened her up. That was one of the best parts. And of course,
helped her realize her life is just beginning.
Yes.
In so many ways.
Yes.
You're in the middle. You're not the end.
Right. And I told her the story of the 90-year-old who's solo traveling spinster.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we are already starting to map out season 3 and season 4. They will be in the United States. So I'm looking forward to really sharing niche neighborhoods of the United States with people, and all the Americana that makes up this soup that we call the USA.
Yeah. That's going to be fun.
The melting pot.
And you have started filming that now, or you're just in like pre-production?
We're in pre-production, really mapping out where we want to go, looking at the different enclaves within America that we can feature and share with people. One of the exploding markets for travel in 2024, moving into 2025, is actually the India market. And I know it's so surprising. They are the biggest expanding market now. And so to really show these other markets, hey, what's in America beyond the movies? Because everyone generally in Asia and a lot of other South America, Africa, Europe,
Everywhere.
they judge by the Hollywood movies.
Absolutely.
Right.
So let's show them a little bit more.
We only know what we see on TV usually, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's the same with
Exactly.
us
Until
regarding
you get
them.
out and travel
Yeah.
and see for yourself
Right.
what's going on.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. I love that you're going to show what you said, the Americana part of America, because there is a distinct American culture in this strange time
Yeah.
of a new world order and global government kind of stuff. It's like,
Yeah.
no, guys, there is a distinct American culture, and I think sometimes that gets lost. And I think it's so cool that you're going to focus in on that. And,
Yeah.
show people this is America.
Yeah. The melting pot for the last 400
Yes,
years of
that's right.
all these conglomerate cultures coming
Yeah.
together and creating this, brewing up this wonderful stew.
Yeah, that's so
Yeah.
cool.
We enjoy even being able to tell Europeans, if they're going to come visit America, to just remind them or tell them for the first time, every state feels different.
Yes.
Every state
Yes.
has its own
Yeah.
flavor. It has its own personality, just like different countries have their own personalities.
Yeah.
Our states have different personalities, and it's really fun to kind of find that and preserve it and highlight it. And
Well, and
all
not
of
just in the
those
state,
things,
but it's for example, in
and
Switzerland.
little smaller pockets within those. Yeah.
Yeah, well, in Switzerland, it's like the size of a small state.
Right.
Well, they've got German, French, Italian, and Romansh, 4 national languages.
Right.
Well, in any given state, I'm from Louisiana, North Central, North, Middle, and South Louisiana, kind of 3 different cultures.
Mm-hmm.
And you can find pockets up in Michigan of these total Swiss culture. The whole town is like you're in Switzerland, and the people there still have the Swiss names, and some of them still speak
Right.
some strange Swiss German. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So even within states, there are all these different cultures that, like you said, have come together and melted to create this thing. But just because you go to a state doesn't mean you've seen all the
True.
cultures that exist in
Right,
that state.
right.
There's so much
Well,
to see.
and I was kind of
Right.
giggling at you because, it's really funny because Roy will say, if I'll say, oh, yeah, he's from Louisiana, he's not from Louisiana. No, he is from South Louisiana.
Oh, one of
So
those.
you need to get that
South
right.
Louisiana,
You have
right?
to say South
Yeah,
Louisiana.
that's right.
You can't just say Louisiana.
It's like if you say you're from California, everyone defines.
oh, right.
No one says.
NoCal or SoCal, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
We are not the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
are 2 different breeds.
Yeah, one of the first questions they ask in moving to Texas, when we now live in Waco, one of the first questions they ask is, where did you come from?
Right.
Well, we moved here from California.
Exactly. The backup.
Yeah, totally. Well, not everybody's from LA, We're not
Right.
from there anyway, but
Yeah.
yeah,
That's so true.
yeah, totally.
But those
Totally. That was a good SoCal.
Thank you.
I know we've talked about this a little bit, but do you have anything to add as far as what compelled you to do an entire show, an entire series
Yeah.
focused on that aspect of it?
In one word, inspiration. I would meet so many people who would always say to me, I wish I could.
Yeah.
I wish. And I said, stop wishing and do.
Just start planning and go.
Yeah. I remember this one instance of somebody, this is so funny. So I had gone to Peru. That was my 40th birthday trip.
Love Peru.
And it's so fabulous. And I come back, and a couple of years into it, a friend of mine, she says to me, I'm going to Peru. And my first thought, this person is super LA. My first thought was, I don't think they're going to let her in. I don't even know why that even appeared in my head. I was like, they're going to deny her. And I was like, and then I thought to myself, you want to go to Peru? And she goes, no, not your Peru, my Peru. And I'm like, well, where's your Peru? She goes, New Mexico. And I'm like, how is New Mexico Peru? Right? I'm trying to follow the thought
I
pattern.
realize they're not strong geography
Right.
in America all the time, but
And she looks at me and she goes, I would never go to New Mexico. And I'm like, but why? She goes, they wear blue jeans and turquoise and silver. I don't do that. And I was like, you're so LA. This is hysterical. And I was like, okay. I tried to take her seriously. I was like, we'll prepare you. Let's go buy a pair of jeans, their kind of jeans. They're going to buy you some cowboy boots so you're
Yeah,
prepared.
uh-huh.
and we're going to try on some silver before you go. And I may even loan you some silver with turquoise in it. She came back a different person.
Come on.
She danced with cowboys and the culture down there. She did a shot of tequila. She did all the things that were not New York and LA. And her lotus started to blossom.
That's awesome.
To the point, fast forward 15 plus years, she is now headed down to Chile, Argentina, and I think Uruguay. Wait for it, by herself. Now, this is a total New York, LA lady.
Wow.
She doesn't go to places like that. She is now going. She is so excited. She's so prepared for it. She's since gone to Italy by herself. She now knows the joy of solo travel. She now knows the art of solo travel. She's so great at just... She sits down at a restaurant, and by the time she leaves, the owner is asking her to stay with them, and she knows every single person in the restaurant. She's that kind of LA, New York gal. And I don't think for me there is a better joy than that. That was my inspiration for her. Every time I solo traveled, she felt the fear for me, and I was like, good, you hold that for me. I don't need that fear. And she learned, because I came back healthier, happier, better, more solid, and a stronger woman every time I came back. And she watched it. And so once her husband passed away, she had to realize it was okay to blossom into this woman that she can be, and how to live her life going forward. It's been so exciting. Her name is Heidi. She's like my second mom. It has been so exciting to see her really blossom through all this. So inspiration.
There's a lot of benefits from solo travel.
The list goes on.
We talked about some of those, and you just touched on more. So it's...
Yeah, I've said so many times, travel can be absolutely life-changing.
Yeah.
Because you get outside of your space, and you see how people live in other spaces, and you go, wow, they're really happy. And you know what? While I was there in that space with them, I was happy. I really enjoyed that. Okay.
Yeah.
It can absolutely change your worldview.
You know, a story that just came to mind when I was solo traveling for my Golden Jubilee, my 50th birthday. Yeah, because I think like the 50th, the Queen had her Golden Jubilee. I was like, well, this is my Golden Jubilee.
This is my Queen.
And I didn't have to tell people I was turning 50. I was like, ah. Anyway, so I was on that, and I was in Bhutan, which is a less visited country. So incredible. They're supposed to be the happiest place on earth. That's their that's their sort of motto, as well as their sort of accolade. And I was sitting with a gentleman that had previously been a monk, and he had left. He still was a caretaker of a temple and very, very old scrolls, which we got to look at. Wow. And his wife and him, and I want to do. So many people ask about American politics, and I just wanted to open up the floor for whatever questions they might have. And I turned to the translator and I said, by the way, you know, they can ask me any questions. Do they have questions about our politics, our food, like our relationship, you know, how marriages work? Like, what is it like to live in the United States for us? And he looks over at me and he starts laughing. He goes, they don't know what the United States is. And I'm like, wait, what? And he goes, they don't even know what the UK is. They don't know what they don't know what that is. And I was like, what? They're like, they just got electricity like, you know, 5 years ago, and they just got TV a couple years ago. Wow. And they only get like 3 stations, and it's all Bhutanese information. It's not like they're sequestered. They have no interest. Yeah. They don't want McDonald's. They don't want Starbucks. They don't even want a stoplight. The stoplight was put in the main roundabout. People went crazy. They took it down in 24 hours, and the prestigious job of being the the little white gloves was restored within 24 hours. They have no interest in our hullabaloo because they're carbon neutral, and we're like devastating, you know, our country, the world. It was so eye-opening. Mm-hmm. They know what China is because they're about 35 miles from the border. But beyond that, none. Like, it was just totally irrelevant to their lifestyle. Man. And something that I've done in the past, which was really, it's fun for me, I ask often people, what is your dream? And a lot of people sort of go, what? Well, that's a funny question. But then somebody answers it, and their family who's been with them sometimes 70 years looks at them and says, I didn't know that. So I asked the husband, I said, his name, we called him Uncle. I said, what is your dream? And he looked at me square without missing a beat. And he said, I've always wanted to learn to write. And the nephew, the translator, was like, what? So I bought them a bunch of books, like children's books and, little workbooks. And I sent it to them. Wow. He was so excited. Will he learn it perfectly? Maybe not. But he gets to start his dream.
Pursuing his dream.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. And I don't remember what her dream was, but she was more interested in my shoes. I had a pair of Skechers on, and she and I were the exact same size.
Come on.
So she's now got 2 pairs of Skechers, which I often leave in countries that I go to. I love Skechers so much. And she actually is so excited. Like, she walks around all over the neighborhood and all over the town with her Skechers. And people are like, oh, where'd you get those shoes? And they're brightly colored. It's just so interesting. Like, people have said what their dreams are. They're really incredible answers. So often we never ask that.
Yeah. Yeah, we think it has to be this unattainable, I'm going to the moon kind of a thing.
Right. Maybe it's someone to meet. Maybe it's, I've always wanted to do this or that. It could be simple, but people have dreamt of things. Like, you meet famous actors and you're like, what's your dream? And they're like, oh, I have always dreamed of being a chef. And people are like, really? And it goes both ways. It's
right.
not always to be a celebrity or to be this or that. Sometimes it's very simple, very obtainable things.
Yeah.
So, it was really fun. When I was leaving Bhutan, I went into the airport shop, and there were all these like workbooks for kids, like fun things for kids to do on the planes. And I just went, wrapped it up. I gave it to the person. I said, I'm going to call someone. They're going to stop by here in 2 days' time, and they're going to pick this all up and then take it back to Uncle.
So cool.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
man.
so great.
Oh, yeah.
Well, dreams tie in with passions.
Yes.
And you have talked about your passions and how putting the travel show together tied together all the things you love and the things you like to dream about and pursue. I wanted to know, you're talking about solo travel when you're filming, but you have a crew with you.
Yeah.
So how does that work?
Yeah. A lot of people will ask me, well, how are you solo traveling? Because it's a solo travel show. How are you solo traveling when you have a crew?
Yeah.
But
you're cheating. It doesn't count.
I am.
Yeah.
I am. And I'm so glad you asked me that, because I actually solo traveled for 7.5 weeks. I did that trip by myself. And then I went back. I think it was one of those things, as a career filmmaker, I was on this trip, and it's hard not to meet someone, and the second I shake their hand, I'm like, ooh, they'd be good on camera. My producer mind is like, yep, oh, I got that shot, I got that shot. And so I did the 7.5 weeks alone as a solo traveler. And then I went back and I recaptured some of that. And what the real magic of filmmaking is, I went and expected really a repeat of what I had done. I didn't get that. I got more. For the places that I went back to, I got more. Like, in particular, the train. When I went back to, in season 2, when I go up to the Hanoi train, it was like, we're just going there for coffee, whatever. This really cool train street where the train comes and you move your table so the train can pass by, and then you put your table back down. It's insane. But what ended up happening, that's where I met the tour guide for the woman to the U.S. veteran to go meet the Vietnamese veteran. I mean, that is filmmaking goldmine.
Yeah.
And then also, something that I'm always excited about is a key thing, whether I'm interviewing a local, interviewing a fellow solo traveler, which is a repeated segment on all the episodes, or I'm just walking around talking to people, experiencing something. It is so important for that camera to disappear in the background, for people to really be themselves. And if, like with Pat, the U.S. veteran, is talk long enough and get them focused on the connection and the conversation to let the
It
camera
disappears.
disappear. Yeah. And that was really the gold mine of going back with a crew, but having already been there and experiencing or really walking the walk myself the first go round.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's neat. You've given us a couple of pointers and tips for solo travel. Start small, that kind of thing. Do you have an additional tips and recommendations for solo travelers that you can impart?
I can. I mean, this will go for all travelers, but just a couple of safety things. You really want to set yourself up for success. Then one of the number one things I do is, first of all, in today's world, we all have a mobile phone of some sort. In particular, a lot of people have iPhones. Share your location with a trusted friend or family member. It's just so easy to do, and why not, right? Number 2, always have a color copy of your passport in 2 ways. One, and I don't know why, but embassies seem to like color copies more than just black and white. Have it digital on your phone, send it to yourself so that you can access it anywhere at any time on any computer. Have it digital, have a color copy, and put it in a Ziploc bag. So if your bag gets wet, you still have this, or if your stuff gets stolen.
So a hard copy and a digital copy.
Thank you. Yes, a hard copy and a digital copy.
All right.
And then next, always know where the embassies are in the countries that you're going to. It sounds silly, but it can really pay off, because I was in a situation once where I lost everything. I lost every single thing. All I had was this like hidden Amex card, but the closest Amex office where I could have gotten cash was over 1,000 miles away.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. So it's like, how am I going to get there? I ended up borrowing money to get there, long story, everything worked out, but know where that embassy is, because quite frankly, you're going to have to get there if you've lost your passport. So just know. And it just, again, you're setting yourself up for success. Always carry your medicines. But like with Thailand, make sure you're not carrying narcotics. You do not want to bring narcotics into a lot of countries. But carry the stuff that you know works. If you know one aspirin type works better than another, carry it. Have it. You're not going to find it. For example, I was deep into the Amazon, like not getting out if you don't have a boat kind of place. And I got really, really ill. But in my little travel case, I had exactly what I needed. And you can ask your doctor for a couple refills for travel prescriptions to take with you. And boom, I was better because I had it really accessible. You just want to be prepared. If you over prepare, you're possibly going to enjoy a little bit more.
Well, and just to that point, Finland. So we were just in Finland, and I got some kind of a little bug on the airplane, as can happen. And so we got there, and I thought, boy, I could really use some NyQuil, because we have to teach a whole week with teenagers, and I've got to get some sleep. You're not going to find NyQuil anywhere in Europe, pretty much.
Right.
And so we go to the Apteekki, and we're like, hey, we're looking for something, this thing NyQuil. They look it up, and they find all the drugs in it, and we spent right at $200 American to get the drugs that are in NyQuil. When if I'd have my
for each symptom that NyQuil covers.
Right.
my little
Nighttime
so
sleeping,
whatever-
season coffee, making stuffy head so you can rest.
Yes, exactly. Yes, thank you. See, precisely. So even in like first world, like Finland, wow, take what you need.
Yeah, take what you need. And I think in terms of my number one thing is pack your wits and trust your gut. We are all animals. We were given this instinct, this gut instinct for a reason, so use it. If you don't know where you're going, like you're walking from point A to point B in Paris, if you don't know where you're going, pull over, go into a supermarket, like get your bearings of where you are. Don't just be walking around on your phone, like aimlessly, like, hey, look at me, I don't know, I'm a lost person. Ask older women. Trust me, older women know everything going on in town, and they generally know where they're going, right?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Or if you are going to look at your phone, pretend you're just checking email. It's all about your stance, but be cognizant and be aware. And this is not a proven safety tactic, but I will tell you, if I think I'm not in a safe area, I look every person in the eye and I'm like, how you doing?
Yeah.
How you doing? How you doing can be really, it's not like, hey, how you doing? It's like, how you doing? It's that New York, how you, and I'm not from New York. It's really intimidating. And if you think there's a guy following you or two guys, I turn around, I look at them, I establish that I know exactly what they look, and then I physically part them. I just whip around and go right back, and they're so aghast because they're now the chased, and I'm chasing them. And it throws them off their game, and quite frankly, they just don't need the hard target. They want the easy target.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And so really own your space. Whether you're traveling in a group or anything, and turn around and be able to identify them and intimidate them.
Yeah, it's a crazy example, but I got stopped. I have been stopped so many times in department stores, and people say, "Excuse me, can you help me? I'm looking for."
Yeah.
Like, I don't work here. But you were walking around so confidently, like you. It's the same thing.
Right.
You're feeling uncomfortable. You're in a place you don't know. Walk around confidently.
Yeah, walk from lost point A to lost point B
That's
confidently. Right. Get your bearings and go from there to the next point.
Yep.
It's all in the It's all in the stride.
Boy, it makes a big difference in the way people treat you.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
For sure. All right, so you have done a show and are doing a show about solo travel. Yeah. But you also have another show.
I do.
It's super fun.
Thank you.
So we have Eat, Drink, Play, and Stay.
That's right. Because what do you do when you travel? You eat, drink, play, and stay.
Yes.
So I've created the show. I'm currently in talks with some people in Asia to do a couple episodes over there, maybe a full season. I had started it off. Actually, I was inspired by AAA, believe it or not. They have a thing called Day Trips. It's in their Westways magazine.
Yes.
Yeah.
We are hoping to have them on our episode at some point because they are a gold mine.
They are.
We talked about gold mines today, but yeah.
They're a gold mine of information.
Yes. And
so I was inspired by their day trips, and I originally created a whole season based off California, and then I realized, wait, this is a fabulous travel format, and then I can expand it into other territories, other countries, and it really goes into the niche neighborhoods and looks. So for season 1, believe it or not, or episode 1 and 2, we go to Norco, California, and El Segundo, California. And most people look at me and have never been to either. And El Segundo is literally LAX.
Yeah,
and people are like, oh, that's where LAX is.
I didn't go there.
Yes. But I'm telling you, they have
There's
brewery.
more to it than the airport.
There is. In fact, it was like the hot spot in the 1900s. I mean, women from downtown LA would take an electric car. It was the Women's Car Club, Women's Car Club. They go from downtown to El Segundo, have tea, and go back to LA in like 1907 or 1915, somewhere like that. And eventually Chevron moved in. I believe it's either Chevron or Exxon, and they're a big oil place. But I actually talked to a guy who would get on his parents' wagon with horses and go from like Culver City area in their wagon and go work the day in El Segundo and back. There's deep history there. Wow. And there's one of the best car museums I've ever seen in the world. And so if you check out the episode, it's streaming on YouTube right now.
Nice.
You can see these two really incredible places that are just a hop, skip, and a jump from downtown LA.
Wow. Got a layover in LAX? A long layover?
That's right. Head on over to El Segundo. They've got breweries there.
An ice cream parlor in the in the car area.
In the car museum, the Zimmerman Automobile Car Museum.
That's too cool. Wow.
So yeah, it's really neat.
In your solo travel show, Me, Myself, and the World, you do Packing with Pamela.
Yes.
If you were only able to pack 3 things, if you had to narrow it down to 3 things, what would you like?
Are we talking 3 beauty items or 3 clothing items?
Yeah, come on.
You only get 3
Well, I can tell you.
things.
Oh, mascara.
Number 1.
Lipstick and a bathing suit.
Okay. What bathing
bathing suit covers it all.
That's great. Yeah.
And you can use lipstick as eyeshadow, blush, and lipstick.
There you go.
All
Can't
right.
go without mascara.
Oh,
And a
man.
bathing suit, you know you're going to have fun.
All right.
That
Can I
was
have 4?
unexpected.
I'll take a
Pamela
poncho.
Holt Essentials.
Yeah, poncho. That's right.
There you go.
Oh my gosh, that would be fun.
Okay.
Nice.
All right. Cool.
Totally unexpected answer there.
Yes. Yes.
It's just coming straight from the heart.
Yeah, I like it.
And
I
the
like
ego.
it. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Tell us one of your funniest travel stories.
Oh my gosh, there's so many.
Oh,
I have 2 stories for you. Okay, the first one is one of the funny. I'll tell you a funny story and a life-changing story. So one of the funniest stories is actually took place when I was about 19, living in Japan, and I was at a homestay. And the little boy didn't speak any English, but he was learning English in school. They learn it from a small age. And he didn't know enough English verbally to speak in actual words. And I didn't know at the time, I didn't know Japanese to speak in actual words. So I asked him to imitate English. Like, what does an American sound like to you? Like, not only does he have it down pat, but he has to get up. And he gets up and he looks like John Wayne. He just moves into the John Wayne stance and he's like, wah, 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 wah. And he's got this, like, he's holding 2 gunslinging things. And I'm dying with laughter over this whole thing. And then I realize, like, one, he sounds like the people on the other side of the phone with Snoopy, the
Yeah,
wah, wah, wah.
or Charlie Brown's
And-
teacher.
Exactly. Or his mom, Lucy's mom.
yeah.
And 2, he looks exactly like John Wayne. I'm like, where did this kid get this? And it's just so funny. And then I did the same for him and looked like some samurai, like about to like hack somebody or like, like I was sort of like the comical Japanese person, and we still laugh about it today. Like it's just it's so funny, like how other cultures receive other cultures
Yeah.
and how fun it can really be if we imitate each other.
Yeah, and laugh about it.
Yes.
Laugh about
Hello.
it because
Yes,
kids
right?
can laugh about it. It's
Yes,
funny.
it's
It-
funny.
Yes.
I don't think I've ever laughed harder in my life than when he imitated an American. It was
only imagine.
great. And he was John Wayne and
That's
Snoopy.
awesome.
Yeah. I will tell you the most life-changing moment was kind of happened twice. Once was I went to Africa and I was meeting my boyfriend there, my boyfriend at the time. And he's like, okay, no jewelry. And I was like, okay. And then like right before I get on the plane, he calls me. He's like, so no jewelry, right? I was like, well, yeah, but like, I just have these little, and he goes, no jewelry, not where we're going. I'm telling you, no jewelry. And I'm like, oh. And I got on the plane and I realized I was stripped of my clothes. I was stripped of my jewelry. I was stripped of all these things that we identify ourselves with, that we show up to a new connection or relationship with that tells this person all sorts of things about us. The clothes we choose, the jewelry we choose, how we wear our hair, all these small things that fit into our conversation. And I also did this when I went to Peru, and suddenly I realized that people I met me and connected with me and liked me just for me. They didn't know what clothes I owned or didn't. They didn't know they didn't identify me by my jewelry, by my car, by what school I went to, nothing, what job I had. It was just me. And that was an unbelievably liberating moment in my life. And I then realized I was meeting other travelers, other solo travelers in all of these countries, just sitting around campfires, meeting each other at hostels, meeting each other at cafes. We didn't know who we were, where we came from, where we were going. We just knew we were going to be friends then. And some of them have stayed friends. And stripping ourselves of all those identifying things
That
was
baggage we were talking about.
baggage.
Yeah.
It was unbelievably liberating.
Yeah, because we think that's who we are.
That's right.
It's not.
No. this is who we are.
Yeah.
This is who we are.
That's right.
Yes,
Wow,
our
that's
heart
big.
our heart, our soul.
Yeah.
That's who
it.
we are.
Oof.
I know. It's like a huggable moment.
Oh,
Oh, good. Virtual.
I love who you are.
Oh, I love who you are. I want to go back to Japan.
Okay.
You talked about your funny story in Japan. So we have a podcast, we have a couple podcast episodes where we interviewed, because we haven't been there yet.
Yeah.
But we find that a lot of our Finnish friends go to Finland. Our Finnish friends go to Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were like, why are all these
that
Finnish people going to Japan? Like, why, And so we have a couple episodes. We'll put those in the show notes along with all of Pamela's links to all her things so you can find her. But we talked about, like, it's so interesting. We go with our expectation, like, as we're Americans, we come to each country as an American, right? They're coming to Japan as Finns. And so it's just kind of fun to get, like, the different perspective of how they see Japan. Mm-hmm. How did they experience it? So you as an American, what were some of the things that were really great about Japan, and or those who are going to be traveling to Japan, what kind of pointers or insights would you have to share?
Yes. Great question, and it's multifaceted. For one, Japan in 2024 was listed as, I believe, the top country in the world. I think it was Travel and Leisure named it as the top country in the world to travel to.
Wow.
And they're rightfully so. I mean, Japan has got it going on.
We've only heard good things from everyone who's been there.
Yeah. It is an incredible place. I mean, when I was there in the 80s and 90s, it was already incredible, and it's just expanded upon that. One, it's very, very easy to get around. It's very safe to get around. You have the entire metropolitan Tokyo train, the whole inner working. It is so easy to navigate, and there's always professional people working in the train stations, whether it's to double check before the train doors close, whatever it is. They just are so organized, great safety features, and easy to navigate. So that's number one. Two, the people are so welcoming. Like I said, most everybody speaks English. They're a really fun culture, and of course they are so deep rooted in their culture. It's been such an old culture. Obviously Chinese is a little bit older, but the Japanese culture is so pure and clear, from their food to their entertainment, their traditions. It's really unique. For me, it was different because I grew up in Hawaii, and so quite honestly, from me going to Japan, I was like, I'm at home with a little bit more of the Japanese culture, but I grew up with that. So nothing was different. The smells weren't different. The food wasn't different. The traditions, and more importantly, the cultural norms were already built into me. So that wasn't different. I understood the hierarchy that I should adhere to in terms of bowing, in terms of greeting people and greeting them in the order that, if you're meeting an elder. We don't really do that as much anymore in the American culture, but I was already familiar with it. So it worked well. It was very easy, and it worked well for me.
Great.
The couple fun things, like besides the navigation of the trains, which are so easy to navigate, and you can take the Shinkansen, which is the bullet train, all over Japan, and going up to Hokkaido, which is the northern island. It's the skiing up there is incredible.
Like snow skiing.
Snow skiing. They have incredible resorts up there. Nara, which is a really unique place closer down south. You have Yokota. So many incredible places to discover in Japan. Obviously, Sapporo beer is up in Hokkaido. There is something for everyone, and it's a huge place for foodies. Something that people may not realize is that Japan, often people go to meals alone. So Japanese restaurants have now kind of changed their menu and their seating to be more single solo diner friendly. Wow. So if you're a solo traveler, Japan's a great place to really jump into the foodie scene, not only because it's built into the culture, but also, you think of all the sushi bars. You get to really take time to take in those flavors. You're not busy talking the whole meal and experience that. And of course, talk to your neighbor if you want to. Yeah. And then for another little tip for travelers heading to Japan is remember, we put all of our restaurants, quite frankly, Europe and America, we put it on the ground floor. Yeah. Tokyo in particular, they're all high rise. So look at like the 5th to the 10th floor. That's where all of your bars and your restaurants are going to be. So when you look up and you'll see all the names of all the restaurants on whatever level they're on. Yeah. And we don't think to look for restaurants up there. No. We're like,
There's
street
nothing
level.
to eat in this town.
Yeah, look up. So yeah, and you have a podcast, right, about Japan?
Yes. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So we'll put that in the show notes.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's sort of a second-person podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. But Japan is #1 this year.
So you talked about with solo travel to start small.
Yes.
And you talked about how Hawaii kind of prepped you for that. So maybe if you want to go to Japan, you could start by going to Hawaii. Like if you want to start small, go first to Hawaii and then to Japan.
Yeah.
Because you might get a little bit of those flavors and different things introduced. You lived in Hawaii, so tell us maybe some highlights and tips for Hawaii.
Hawaii is amazing. Of course, it was the Kingdom of Hawaii, and it is a truly magical, special place. They say people typically, I think, live 7 years longer, those who live in Hawaii. It's the volcanic, maybe the electrons in the air from the volcanoes. It's a special place, obviously, perhaps Pele.
And you lived in Oahu.
I lived on the island of Oahu, which for a lot of people, what we'll say is the island of Oahu, where Honolulu is the capital, that's the main city, or the beach of Waikiki. That's all Oahu. Okay. Right. If you go in February, you will see a very large contingent of Japanese tourists. That's their big season, February and secondarily August. So if you want a little entree into Asia, go in February and you'll get both the Hawaiian culture and the Japanese culture. One of my favorite times to go to Oahu in particular is in September. You have King Kamehameha Day, you have the big parade. All the students and families are gone. The beach and the waters are clear. It is the best weather. I think September is the best time to go for the whole year. Come on. And really dive into the culture, the Hawaiian culture. Eat the food, try the food, and experience all the cultures that now make up Hawaii, which is so much of Micronesia, the Polynesian cultures, and perhaps go to the Polynesian Cultural Center, which is on the far side of Oahu. Go over to the North Shore, because I think really experiencing the food and the culture and the language that make up Hawaii now is really important. And of course, one of the best places to go to the seat of the Hawaiian Kingdom, which is the Palace, and the Bishop Museum, which is just right downtown in Honolulu. Those are not to be missed. Wow. And something new that a lot of people don't know is they've all heard of Hanauma Bay, which is Hanauma Bay, Queens Bay. You now have to have reservations, and generally like a couple months in advance, and people don't know that.
So you don't want to make this a last minute trip if you go there.
No, if you're going there. Wow, and if you can, have a cocktail or a buffet meal, or even the hula show at the Royal Hawaiian, which is the oldest hotel. In fact, their 100-year anniversary is coming up, I think in 2026 or 2027. That is not to be, or 2025. It's not to be missed.
Oh, that'd be a very cool place to stay.
Now, Southwest flies to Hawaii, and so that makes it much easier and much more tangible. Yeah. But you also have an insight, right? Yeah, so this week, as of recording this, Hawaiian and Alaska are merging, and that is huge. And we are at the late end of 2024 right now when we're recording this. So you've got two big
conglomerates. Now, Hawaiian is linked to Japan Airlines. You've got Alaska Airlines. You've just opened up the whole West Coast and then subsequently into Asia. So if you have Alaska points or you have Hawaiian points, I don't know. I've heard that the points might be 1-to-1, but it's a huge bonus.
Right.
So you're opening a whole new opportunity to really see the Hawaiian Islands, see Asia, the whole West Coast with Alaska Airlines. And quite frankly, they're amazing.
Come on.
They are amazing. I've been with another airline for the last literally 30 years. And this year I started flying Alaska for a couple trips. And I'm like, what have I been doing? This is amazing. Literally, you walk on and they're like, hi, so great to have you. And you're like, wait, what? Huh? It's night and day. I was blown away. My sister and I thought it was a joke at first. And then we did it.
Me?
Yeah. And then now I've been on like 5 flights. And literally they're like, it made travel enjoyable again. Wow. That's how they treat you.
Right.
Your vacation starts when you get to the airport and check in.
It used to be that way, right? Man.
Yes. Oh my, I mean, it's night and day, and I don't work for them. I've never worked for them, but I'm telling you, it was amazing.
We get to fly them.
This is huge. Yeah.
We've had like a couple flights, and they were fine. You know, I mean, I didn't have any issues or problems. Or
I don't remember flying them.
They're homegrown, and they've stuck that way. Yeah. They know who butters their bread, and it's the people.
Yeah.
And they're gonna stick that way.
Yeah.
I don't speak for them, but that was my take.
But that's what I'm believing. And
Well, I talked to people. I was like, "Gosh, why are you guys so nice?" And they're like, "Because our president's nice, our CEO's nice, and our bosses are nice."
They cast the vision, and we walk it out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. They're respected and they're listened to. Oh my gosh, I spoke to this operator, and she was just so nice, and she was talking, and she lived up in Oregon, and I was like, wow, you're like a really happy person. And she goes, well, I got a hug from the CEO. I was like, CEO's like, that just walked up and hugged her and thanked her for her service. And that meant the world to this woman. And she goes, well, I'm just giving you a hug through the phone. And I don't know why I'm talking with a southern accent, but she had one. And I was like, wow, that's like that's who they are.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's great. So now you can use your miles to get to Hawaii.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. It's like Pan Am all over, where it's enjoyable travel.
Yes.
Yay.
Thank you.
Any other final closing thoughts or?
Yeah. Make your bucket list. You live for the present and travel with joy. That's sort of my closing thought. I truly believe travel changes lives.
Yes, I agree.
And
Absolutely.
go out there and get it.
Yeah.
I love it. That's why we're all here. Well, thank you so much, Pamela. It has been so fun talking with you.
Yes.
Aw. You're going to find her at thepamelaholt.com.
PamelaHolt.com.
You're going to find her at pamelaholt.com.
And on socials at The Pamela Holt. On Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, you name it.
So y'all get on there and follow her. All that will be in the show notes.
And Me, Myself, and the World, The Art of Solo Travel, is on Amazon Prime, Go Traveler, my home, and Tubi, and a lot of different platforms. So you can actually stream it for free on Go Traveler, and if you have Amazon Prime, you can stream season 1 and 2.
Yeah, well, congratulations. That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
Ooh, looking
Thank
forward
you.
to the next one.
Thank you.
Americana, baby.
So y'all, thank you so much for joining us. We want to wish you a very Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year's Eve, Happy Christmas Eve, Happy New Year's. We hope you have a wonderful holiday season, a wonderful winter, and a wonderful December.
Oh my gosh. You're like, goodbye makes me want to sing a Christmas song. Can we do Jingle Bells? I know. We got Jingle Bells?
Yeah, let's do it. We're all
okay,
singers.
let me come up. You ready?
Yep.
A 5, 6, 7. Okay. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Woo! Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Christmas.